You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Almost. Major. Holy fucking shit, this is major!
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Almost Major, where we talk about the many major studios of the films they released. We are on our Geffen mini-series, and my name is Kevin Tudor. I'm here with Bryden Doyle.
Hello.
And we are talking about The Last Boy Scout from 1991. This released on December 13th, 1991 in 1,823 theaters at number 2 at the box office. Nominated at the MTV Movie Awards for Best On-Screen Duo and Best Action Sequence. And the action sequence was the helicopter blade sequence. I assume my man at the end, which I was just like, wow, I'm giving this 9 more stars. The budget for this film was $43 million. Opening weekend, it made $7.9 million and a domestic and overall gross of $59.5 million. Top 5 films that weekend was Hook, The Last Boy Scout, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, The Addams Family, and Beauty and the Beast.
Interesting.
Very. All over the goddamn place, TBH. Very different from Personal Best's top 5, which was just all movies that didn't exist. Number 1 song in the U.S. this week, Black or White by Michael Jackson. Number 1 song 2 weeks before this is Set Adrift on Memory Bliss by PM Dawn, which is the greatest song ever.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Number 1 song in Canada this week is No Son of Mine by Genesis. Canada is just not a fan of Michael Jackson at that time. They were like, we still like Collins.
I am not familiar with 90s Genesis.
No. Maybe it was in a movie? I don't know. Plot description from Google. Once a first-rate Secret Service agent, which how that all unfolds is interesting. Joe Hollenbeck, played by Bruce Willis, is now a gruff private investigator whose latest gig is protecting a pole dancer, played by Halle Berry. When she's murdered, he grudgingly teams up with her boyfriend. Shouldn't it be begrudgingly? Can you grudgingly team up with Jimmy Dix, played by Damon Wayans, an ex-quarterback with a gambling problem? You could just say quarterback. You don't have to say gambling problem. That's kind of an oxymoron. And the two go after her killers. Before long, they stumble on a plot with a well-known football magnate, played by Noble Willingham, to bribe federal legislators into legalizing sports gambling, which is just... It's been legalized, man.
Yeah, you're now seeing ads where like Luis Guzman is promoting FanDuel, and you're just like, great. Love where we're at now.
Yeah. Story by credit is Shane Black and Greg Hicks, and it was written by Shane Black. Prior to this, Lethal Weapon and The Monster Squad in 1987. After this, Last Action Hero in 93. Long Kiss Goodnight in 96. Hell yeah. Wrote and directed Kiss Kiss Bang Bang in 2005. Wrote and directed Iron Man 3 in 2013. Bad movie. Wrote and directed The Nice Guys 2016. Great movie. And wrote and directed The Predator in 2018. Perhaps the worst movie of all time.
Yeah, he's had some low points. And he most recently wrote and directed Play Dirty, where Mark Wahlberg plays Parker. Not the best movie, not the best looking movie, but Lakeith Stanfield is fun in it as one of the teammates that Wahlberg is teamed up with. Unfortunately, Wahlberg is the lead and is not very checked in. But yeah,
I remember when that came out. My friend just texted me at like 3 a.m, Shane Black with a frowny face. I was like, what happened? He was like, oh, he just dropped a bad movie. I was like, motherfucker, I thought he died. Like, you can't just do that. He was like, no, this new movie. I was like, this movie doesn't exist. You can't just assume like that I know that movie. Yeah. Directed by Tony Scott. Prior to this, The Hunger in 1983, Top Gun in 1986, Beverly Hills Cop 2 in 1987. Have you seen Beverly Hills Cop 2?
Yeah, I do not like it at all. It's but like,
but then you watch the third one, and you're just like, please bring me back to Beverly Hills Cop 2.
I have not seen that, but I have heard it is quite poor. It's John Landis who did that, right? Normal guy.
Well, no, one of the greatest quotes of all time was Eddie Murphy talking about that movie, and fuck, am I gonna remember the guy's name? I gotta remember the guy's name before I say the whole joke. I'll look it up while I'm doing this.
Okay.
Revenge and Days of Thunder was 1990, and after this, True Romance in 1993, The Fan in 1996. I wanted to rewatch this. That made a huge impression on me renting it in middle school. Numerous Nine Inch Nails closer remakes, needle drops.
Like back to back. It's awesome.
Yes. Let's see what else. Enemy of the State in 1998, aka the longest film ever to exist, next to The Holiday. What else? Man on Fire 2. Wow, I fucked that up.
Man on Fire.
Man on Fire 2004. That's what it's supposed to say. The best shit ever. Domino in 2005. Please Go Away From Me and My Loved Ones. Deja Vu in 2006. Hell yeah.
My favorite.
Taken of Pelham 1, 2, 3 in 2009, and Unstoppable in 2010.
Yeah, great last film. Yeah, it's also funny that you cited Enemy of the State as like longest film ever made when like Man on Fire is right there is like 146 minutes. Where
Doesn't feel that way.
I mean, no, I like that movie too. I have not seen it since I was a kid, but I remember watching it with my dad, and like we had to watch it like in chunks, like I think over the course of a week, because it was like I was watching it on a school night, and it's like so fucking long. But yeah, no, that's it. I need to revisit that one because it's been a minute, but yeah, it's great.
I remember Eddie Murphy said about working with John Landis in Beverly Hills Cop 3. He said that John Landis has a greater chance of working with me again as he does with working with Vic Morrow.
Oh my gosh, that's brutal.
That's fucked, dude. The first time I read that, I like just drove my car over a bridge. I was like, holy shit, dude. Starring Bruce Willis as Joe Hollenbeck. He has a lot of movies, if you didn't know, and most of them are very well known, so I'm going to bring up some forgotten ones. You know, like Color of Night in 1994. Right now, I believe you've seen that.
Yep, double billed it with Freddie Got Fingered, with the theme being Worst Picture winners at the Razzies. Freddie Got Fingered, pretty damn good. And then Color of Night, I found like damn near impossible to follow. But
did you watch the director's? Isn't there a director's cut?
Yeah, it was, and that was like that felt endless. It was like 2 hours and 19 minutes. Yeah, it was wild. Yeah.
Last Man Standing in 1996. That's the
Walter Hill.
Walter Hill. Yeah.
That movie didn't quite work for me on a narrative level, but like my goodness, like the dusty sort of like textures of like the desert town that Willis is in, and like the shootouts are just like incredible screen violence. I mean, yeah, that, which is like what Walter Hill like sells at. But yeah, interesting movie.
The Jackal in 1997, which you just watched.
Yeah, which if you wanted to hear Massive Attack's Dissolved Girl before Mezzanine came out, you could go see The Jackal, where they play it twice in the movie.
There's a Jackal remix, right?
Yes, which plays during the end credits. Yeah.
Mercury Rising in 1998 is just a real streak of movies that really just came and went, like had zero staying power. Like, I wonder how much Mercury Rising made. It probably made so much and then just immediately evaporated. Bandits in 2001, a movie I remember my dad renting at the time and turning it off because he was like, I'd rather watch the news because it's 10 o'clock. I remember he did that with that movie and The Spirit. I don't know if he ever just like turned off a movie other than that.
I've heard some people stick up for Bandits. The Spirit, I've heard, is rough. I have that like on DVD still. Like, I think we got that like when like one of the local video stores was going out of business, and I was like, oh, I never saw this in the theater. We should have it. And I've heard it's like unwatchably boring, but also give it a whirl probably.
Yeah. We will be discussing Bruce Willis again for Beavis and Butthead to America at the end of this miniseries. Hostage in 2005. That's a movie. He was in 29 direct-to-video movies from 2018 to 2023.
Yeah, which, like, you know, it's like the thing of like when like people I think started talking about like where people maybe taking advantage of him when like he started to lose his, when he was diagnosed with aphasia and everything, where like, you know, people were getting him to do movies that like when he maybe shouldn't have been. But yeah, he also just like he did a lot of fucking movies like but before that too. I mean, like what he did, like 2 Red movies. He would pop up in the Expendables movies. He cameos in, you know, Ocean's 12. Lay the Favorites by Stephen Frears of all people.
The whole 10 yards.
Right. Well, I haven't seen that. Heard it's bad. Whole 9 yards. Pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
He was in a full trilogy from 2022 to 2023 called Detective Night. There's 3 movies called Detective Night.
Night with a K, I assume?
Yes.
Okay.
I could be lying. Who knows? Damon Wayans as Jimmy Dix. Prior to this, tiny roles in Beverly Hills Cop in 1984 and Hollywood Shuffle in 1987. 11 episodes of Saturday Night Live from 85 to 86. There's a very funny story of how he went out of his way to get fired off of SNL. Do you know that?
No. What's the story?
He did not like working there. He says they didn't really know how to use black people, which is pretty accurate. He says that he would walk around 8H with sunglasses on, and when people said, "Why are you wearing sunglasses?" he said, "It's too white in here, it hurts my eyes." But it was one sketch where he was just like a policeman, just being like, "Hey man, what is it? It was John Lovett's playing as like a Mr. Monopoly and getting somebody out of jail, like bad sketch." But he was just like playing the policeman that's just like, "Hey, your attorney's here." So the way that he did it, he played it very effeminate and over the top, which basically stole the sketch from everybody else and made everybody be like, "What's up with that guy?" And then after that, they're just like, "Yeah, you're gone." Like, that was fucked up. And then right after that, basically, was in Earth Girls Are Easy, Colors, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, and Punchline in 1988. And then 80 episodes of In Living Color from 1990 to 1994. Blank Man in 94, Major Pain 95, Celtic Pride in 96, and also The Great White Hype and Bulletproof in 96.
Oh, yeah.
I've not seen Bulletproof. I think that's like the only 90s Sandler that I've not seen.
Yeah, and it's Ernest Dickerson who directed it, the Spike Lee DP who also did like Juice and Surviving the Game. Good director. Not his best hour, but it's
isn't it like 80 minutes or something like that?
It's real short.
They like took the movie away from him basically.
That's maybe I feel like I've heard that. I don't have any confirmation on that, but yeah, I also remember watching it with my brother and it being like there being like a lot of plot twists in it. But yeah,
it's like like Wild Things plot twists or
no,
okay.
Maybe it was like I was like 14 at the time and you were like, holy shit, man, there's a lot of twists in this movie. But yeah, it does have one kind of funny bit where at the start of the movie, Adam Sandler like accidentally shoots Damon Wayans in the head, and like he has like a metal plate put in his head and everything, and like there's like they're driving, and there's like some radio static, and Sandler like makes some quip, is like, hey, why don't you like turn your head and everything? Maybe that's what's messing with the signal. And Wayans is like, all right, fuck you, man. And then like he pauses for a moment, turns his head, and the radio signal immediately goes up, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Bamboozled in 2000, and of course, Marcy X in 2003. That's right. And
wasn't he also on his own show, like My Wife and Kids?
My Wife and 124 episodes of that from 2000 to 2005, and then Lethal Weapon from 2016 to 2019.
Oh my gosh, wow! Which forgot about that. It all comes back to Shane Black. Where I heard he had a bad time working on that show with Clayne Crawford.
Clayne Crawford,
yeah.
Clayne Crawford's so good in Swim Fan. I'm used to I'm looking forward to hearing that Southern accent, which he moans my name. What if we put on Swim Fan tonight? What if that happens? Also starring,
crazy, man, you're losing it. I remember that was the line that you did when we were doing that episode. Yeah. Also
starring Chelsea Field, which she has a face that I was like, I've seen her in other things, and I looked and I was like, no, I haven't. Halle Berry, Taylor Negron, who I always confuse with Jonathan Hyde of Anaconda fame. But I'm just like, no, that's the dad from Biodome, actually. And Danielle Harris, who I thought was going to have like one scene, but she's like basically the third lead at a certain point. Like, pretty wild. To go from Halloween 4 and 5 to this is pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Trivia, there's a lot. The movie was filmed in 72 days from March 11th to May 22nd, 1991. Just like on Personal Best, Jack Nicholson was the first choice for the part of Joe Hollenbeck. Can't see that working.
Yeah, no, I don't want that.
Yeah. The final collaboration between producer Joel Silver and actor Bruce Willis. The making of this film, as well as Die Hard 2 and Hudson Hawk, took a toll on their professional relationship, coupled with Silver's ousting from Fox due to production delays and budget overruns on Die Hard 2. Silver was no longer involved in further Die Hard films. Wait, Joel Silver is not a good dude? Didn't know that. Tony Scott hated working with producer Joel Silver so much that he based the character Lee Donowitz, played by Saul Rubinek, movie producer and cocaine user and dealer in his next movie, True Romance, on Silver, and made sure for him to look and act just like Silver did. When Scott learned that first-time director Marco Brambilla would be working with Silver on Demolition Man, he sent Brambilla a toy gun with a note saying, "You'll understand later." Wait, Joel Silver is not a good dude? One more Joel Silver fact. Tony Scott also spoke about how miserable production was, largely because Silver and Bruce Willis took over the production, altered parts of Shane Black's script, and made him shoot scenes he hated under threat of being fired and having to forfeit his salary. I'm starting to think Joel Silver's not a good dude.
And Willis, I mean, as much as I admire him as an actor, could also be a tad difficult when you worked with him. When some directors worked with him, I wonder what the scenes were that Scott shot that he hated.
There was a lot that was A, cut out of the original script, and B, cut out of the first cut of the film. Which I have a little bit of that later on. A riot nearly occurred during filming in Los Angeles Coliseum. Hundreds of extras were recalled for a second day of shooting, but a last-minute decision were made to cancel the recall. The extras were not informed of the decision and arrived expecting a day of work. They were refused pay by the production. As discontent grew, they began to surge against the barrier that surrounded the set. Riot police were called in to disperse the crowd. The conversation between Joe and Jimmy about the $650 pants was taken from a deleted scene of Lethal Weapon. Damon Wayans trained with the Los Angeles Raiders quarterback Vince Evans in preparation for his role. Shane Black and Tony Scott both said in later years how the original script was far better than the final film. It had a darker tone with more violence, and almost the entire second half of the script was completely different. Black's script also included more focus on the two villains, Milo and Shelley Marcone. Milo was even a nastier villain than he is in the film. In the script, besides being a hitman for Marcone, he also had a job as a director of snuff films in which his men would be kidnapping and killing women in very violent ways. Where is this movie?
That's wild. Yeah, I remembered Milo like being in the movie more than he actually is, but it really is
he
like
doesn't show up till like damn near an hour in.
Yeah, like you only hear his voice on like the first phone call to like the football player who like shoots everybody on the field. We'll talk about that scene later. But yeah, then like he shows up really in like just like the last 30 minutes, but he's really effective. Like really like seems like crazy. Like especially like when he's like he's got like those shadowy close-ups when he's like trying to snipe Chelsea Ross and everything. He looks like really berserk. Yeah.
There was also a scene in the script where he brutally kills an entire family who accidentally showed up near the place where a meeting between him and Bernard's men took place. The movie was also edited down to not get an NC-17. I believe the first time they submitted it did get an NC-17. With this film, Shane Black became the first writer to sell a spec script for $1 million. According to Time magazine, he was originally offered $2.25 million by Carol Co. Pictures, but decided to go with Warner Brothers for the lower but still a record-setting bid of $1.75 million so that he could work with Joel Silver. Buddy, don't do it. Who also produced his script for Lethal Weapon. This record stood for only 67 days until Carol Co. purchased a screenplay by Joel Esterhaus, which became Basic Instinct for $3 million. Insane.
I thought there was the Esterhaus competition there. Yeah. And didn't it like rise up again where like he also like wrote like the Long Kiss Goodnight script in like a really fast time, like when like Esterhaus was like maybe he was like Esterhaus was writing Jade around that time. Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like I remember there being like some competition between them around that time again. But anyway, weird.
Beautiful. He's like, I'll write a fucking snarky ass script. Oh yeah, I'll write a script that sucks. Be like, and make more money. Tony Scott wanted Grace Jones to play the small part of Corey, but the producers opposed the idea and Halle Berry was cast instead. Joel Silver said in a Q&A for the Nice Guys 2016 that the Shane Black's original title for this script was Die Hard. Silver asked if he could take the title for a project he was working on at the time that was called Nothing Lasts Forever, which became Die Hard. Imagine if there was just 5 movies called Nothing Lasts Forever. And then lastly, Billy Cole's last words of Ain't Life a Bitch before committing suicide were originally going to be, I'm going to Disneyland, a common phrase amongst Super Bowl winners. Yeah, we're going to spend like 45 minutes on the opening of this movie. It's fucking nuts.
I know, like, I remember before I saw this movie, I like read Roger Ebert's review of this, and he gave it 3 stars, but he said like that scene and like the treatment of women and all those other things, he was just like, I'm like flabbergasted. Like, and he was basically just like, is like, where's God when you need him? And everything, like having that kind of tone and saying like, it's very well made, but like, this is like reprehensible. He was like appalled by like just the content in this movie. And I was like, well, how does it open? And then I saw it like this movie on VHS when I was like a teenager. I was like, what? Like, I think I just like started laughing because I was just like, I can't believe this is how this opens. It's so wild. Anyway, yeah.
Okay, I'm now seeing, because I previously said the domestic and overall gross was $59.5 million, but I'm seeing it is $114.5 million. It made money. Okay.
This ain't no game, Flash.
Joe Hallenbeck's a private detective who's run out of luck.
If you touch me again, I'll kill you.
2 for 2.
Told you.
Jimmy Dix
I like Prince.
is an ex-quarterback who was thrown out of football.
Another tragic tale of wasted youth. You're nobody. Shh. Don't tell anyone.
They were trying to clean up their acts
You vacuum, I'll dust.
when they got dragged into the dirty world of sports corruption. They got one shot
What am I gonna do? Point it at the bad guys and shoot!
to get the goods on the bad guys.
Just once, I would like to hear you scream. Play some rap music.
Bruce Willis, Damon Wayans, the last Boy Scout.
That's all the trivia I have. Initial thoughts, I don't have much. Hold on here. I wrote some notes. I will say that before I watched it, I was like, I've never seen anything of this movie, a trailer or anything like that. So I was like, let me just skim through the trailer. And the trailer includes the opening scene.
Oh.
And I was like, I wish I would have not known that, but also seeing that, I was like, oh, I'm watching this right now because what the fuck? Yeah, completely deranged scene that is. And it's also, it like opens with that. It's very dark and it doesn't really go back to what all that's setting up until like 50 minutes later. Which
They don't even reference him like later. Like, I mean, it's weird because like, you know, Damon Wayans is like partying with like the teammates and everything. It's like saying like, is anybody gonna talk about that? Like that would be like news that like everybody would be talking about for days. It's
for months.
Yeah.
They'd be having like what is it, like detectors and shit, metal detectors for like every NFL game and shit, because you know, remember that one time somebody shot a bunch of people on the field? You know, that thing that never happened before or after again.
Yeah.
I think this is fine to good. My main thing is that the Shane Black of it all, which I do like some of his scripts, but this one is very Shane Black, where I'm just like, does everything Bruce Willis say have to be a quip? Like, please, for the love of God. I will also say the movie really makes me want to smoke a cigarette because it makes it look so fucking cool. Good on you, Tony Scott. Yeah, that really don't have much to say other than Tony Scott, maybe not my type of guy either. Like, I love Man on Fire, but then he did something similar to that again with Domino, and I was like, this fucking sucks. But I'm trying to think of, like, my second favorite Tony Scott movie, and it might be Unstoppable, a movie that I watched literally an hour ago.
And what's your favorite? What's your number one? Man on Fire?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But, like, The Hunger I thought was fine. Top Gun's cool. True Romance I do like. The Fan I need to rewatch. Yeah, not necessarily my guy. Deja Vu I do dig the shit out of.
Yeah.
But it's more so just like, yeah, but it doesn't hit me. Like, it's not like my movie, and I know that this movie is a lot of people's movies for sure. Same with like Beetlejuice, where I'm just like, cool. And they're just like, what do you mean cool? I've been watching this for 25 years, and be like, I just watched it last month.
Yeah. No, I remember listening to Suspense is Killing Us. They did like a Tony Scott, like I think they did a couple of Tony Scott centric episodes, and they talked about Last Boy Scout. And I think like two of the co-hosts talked about how they thought like Bruce Willis, when they were kids seeing this Last Boy Scout, they thought like Bruce Willis's character was like the coolest guy ever, which I think is just like such a funny thing. And they acknowledge that it's funny because like in the movie he's like such an asshole and like so downbeat.
But it's just like one time he was a Secret Service person and was just like walked in on somebody beating a woman, and he was like, hey, cut it out. And I was like, do we go back to that? Who was that guy? What is going on? Is that the president?
It's the senator who like they try to assassinate at the end, and then who he beats up again in front of everybody.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like the weird thing too of like this movie. So yeah, I guess I'll get into my initial thoughts. I had seen this as a teenager. I must not have been paying very close attention to it because a lot of this I don't remember a lot. The things I remembered from like that initial viewing were opening scene where you know the desperate football player Billy Cole sneaks a gun onto the football field and shoots on multiple players to score a touchdown.
Does that touchdown count?
Probably not. And then I remembered that. I remembered the Bruce Willis telling the fat wife jokes to the one guy trying to kill him, Badgadola, and then I remembered him killing Kim Coates with the one punch to the nose.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and then I think that's it. I think I did not remember the helicopter puree until like
unbelievable.
yeah, like I remember like seeing like I remember like people sharing that clip on like Twitter. I think in the last years, like being like, "Holy shit, this is how the movie ends," and I think and like, I was like, "Huh, did not remember that." But I also did not remember the bit where the football team owner takes the wrong briefcase and blows himself up, which and is treated like a sight gag. Which there's a similar sight gag at the end of the Jean-Claude Van Damme Troy Hark movie Knockoff, where like where he and Rob Schneider are just having drinks and then like someone like blows up in the background while they're just like having drinks and they're like completely oblivious to it.
Well, that car blows up and like Bruce Willis, his wife, and everybody's just like, oh, that's funny. What's that? Don't worry about it.
Which that's the tone of the movie. Yeah, it's very glib. Yeah, I remember not liking this movie very much as a teen. I part of me wonders I must have either not been paying very close attention to it, or like I remember watching it with my brothers and we'd probably been like voting on like what movie to watch, and this got picked over probably what I wanted to see, so I was just like this sucks. Like I remember when
okay, but I'm curious on what you wanted to watch though.
It was probably something like dog shit.
Guys, I want to watch Jumper. They're like, no. But I want to watch Push. Isn't that what that's called? Like Chris Evans? Yeah.
Still haven't seen it.
Cool. Good.
Yeah, I liked this fine. It's not my favorite Tony Scott still by like a mile. Like it's like I like this better than like Days of Thunder and like Beverly Hills Cop 2 for sure as well. But like I found this like went down like relatively easy. Like it's like an hour 40 and like it moves like pretty swiftly through like all of its plot beats. The Shane Black jokes like are kind of hit and miss. Like some of it really is just kind of like, and there is like some of it is just like people being just like, I'm like, this isn't funny as so much just you're being really mean right now. And like I do like find I do find some of the sort of cynical quips like a little funny and everything, where it's like saying, holy shit, we're alive, and then like Bruce was like, hooray. And then when the one football player who like was being like super creepy to the girl in the hot tub at the start of the movie confronts David Wayans in the end and says like, you shouldn't even be here, you got kicked off the team, and then David Wayans like pops out a shotgun, like, how'd you like to get kicked off the planet?
That is such a weird, like, why is that scene in there?
I don't know. Just like have like
just
like
to
the
show
shitty
him, be
dude
like,
come
damn,
back.
he's really good at throwing a fucking football. He fucking broke that guy's nose.
And he's riding on a horse because like that's like a callback to like some conversation that he and like Bruce Willis have, like when they're like going to Willis's house or something like that. Yeah, there are some strange callbacks.
And he played for the Los Angeles Stallions, so to play on that team, you have to be good at riding horses. I don't know. I found this pretty compelling. I also like I'm a sucker for like a lot of 90s action movies, and like the action in this I think is like really good. I mean like all the sort of slow motion inserts like that really like have like a lot of texture to sort of like the impact of like this terrible violence, like the one like when that one cop who like shakes Bruce Willis's hand like goes to check on him like when he's been when they're like thinking he's like killed someone, and then like Milo says like, yes, there's a problem, officer, there's too many bullets in this gun, and shoots him, and then like you can see like the stuffing from like his shirt or jacket is like flying out as like blood spurts out, and then I'm like, geez, like there's like real, I mean Scott is like very good at like the textures of like the violence here, and like gorgeously lit interiors, like all the blue light, which is especially good when these characters are being like all sad sack and reminiscing on like the bad turns that their lives have taken. And I do think like Black gets like some of like the sort of more downbeat when he's not trying to be funny and is like really kind of getting at the melancholy of these characters' lives. There are like some good lines here, like when Damon Wayans is talking about like the tragedy of like losing his wife and how his son lived for 18 minutes. He's like, and he says he just fell asleep. He had time for one dream. I'm just like, oh, geez. Like there is like a real kind of like poetry to that line, I think, especially like because these guys are living lives where they feel like they've just sort of given up on their hopes and everything. I do think there is, and Ebert talked about this in his review, and I can't really argue with him that there is like a real
a misogynistic undercore to this movie that is like kind of hard to sort of shake off and everything. Like, yes, Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans will defend women from being like beaten up by shitty dudes and everything, but then also like they are like constantly tossing out the phrase bitches and whores, and also like, you know, Bruce Willis is like talking about like sort of like the nature of the world, and he's saying like water's wet, sky's blue, women have secrets, and you're just like, oh, great.
And also my bitch wife cheated on me.
Yeah.
And also basically Halle Berry gets fridged in this movie. She has like one scene where she talks and then it just immediately mowed down by like 9,000 bullets afterwards.
Yeah, it's very strange. And then like, you know, I think it's like, and then like the big reunion between Willis and Chelsea Field is like him saying, "Fuck you, Sarah, you're a lying bitch, and if the cops were in here, I'd spit in your face." Which is like the thing that like she says like, he's like, "What do you want me to say?" And she's like, "I don't know, anything," like those lines and everything, which makes me think of the bit in The Good Place where Ted Danson is telling just like undercover demons. He says like, "I don't know, if you need to go do something, like, you know, say that you're off doing something, like going to the gym." And then there's the one demon who just like every time he has to like leave, he says like, "I'm going to the gym." And he says like 6 times in a row. And Ted Danson says, "No, I said use an excuse like I'm going to the gym. Don't just like." But yeah. That was like a little. That's like a tough thing to swallow. I get that there were movies around that time that were like that were just as bad, if not worse, in their treatment of women. Like I watched Drop Zone last summer, where there's a scene where Wesley Snipes straight up punches Nancy Butler in the face, and then like is like asking, but then is like, also help me get to know the parachute jumping community.
Strange idea for a movie.
Yeah.
Was that before or after Passenger 57?
After Passenger 57 and after Point Break also, which I feel like it's riffing off of. Yeah, no, I mean, I listen, I like this. I like this pretty well. Like I felt this went down pretty easily, but it's not like the movie when I think of like Tony Scott's best work. It's not like my favorite. It doesn't have like the emotional core to it. And while I think the images in this are pretty for sure, it doesn't quite. I don't feel like, I mean, especially like if you look at like Tony Scott's later movies where like his images like really like seem like really like abstract, or like with all like the digital photography and stuff like that. It's like this like doesn't like seem like something that's like truly, it's not like quite as otherworldly in its beauty as it is like with those later works. But it's also just like, it's different. I mean, you know, he's like shooting on film, and like, you know, the you know, when like, you know, he can make lighting look super smoky and everything. But yeah, no, I thought this was like a fun time. I'm glad I revisited it, even if I'm like maybe not quite as high on it as like some other people. It's also funny too, with Halle Berry being in this. You know, going back to like when we first met each other, we were playing the game Cinephile together, and like they would have like the cards with actors' names, portraits on it and everything, and they'd like it'd be from like a certain movie. And Halle Berry's was The Last Boy Scout, and even like with my vague memories of this movie, it's like, I don't think she's in the movie that much. Like, like you could have picked somebody else
for other movies.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I just think that's funny.
She's playing Jungle Fever more, and she's like barely credited in that movie.
Yeah.
Is that the same year as this?
Yeah, actually, 1991. Yeah, damn.
Okay.
Do you want to go through the plot really quickly? I mean, we can like hit on some of the points here. Yeah, so the movie begins where it's like a game between like the LA and Cleveland football teams, and there's a player who gets a call from a mysterious voice who's saying that like you need to like score a touchdown or like your history. Like there's like this much money like riding on the line, and the football player in desperation sneaks a pistol onto the field and shoots the opposing team members.
He takes PCP first, and
right,
then
that's
gets
true.
a gun.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a PCP, and like he's like walking like we also get like the movie opens with a terrible rock song that is now stuck in my head about Friday nights, a great night for football. And that's making it look like super snazzy, and then it like, you know, cuts to like the actual football game where like everyone's like just like drenched in a monsoon basically. Like
I did see that apparently the test screenings, maybe it was the NC-17 before. The first song was "Are You Ready for Some Football" by Hank Williams Jr., which was like the big song on like Monday Night Football for like 10 years.
Right.
But yeah,
and then so the guy, the player Billy Cole takes the gun onto the field, shoots the players, and then shoots himself in front of everybody.
Real quick, that scene really reminds me of like that scene is just like the Fan, basically.
Oh,
the way that it's shot,
that's basically how the Fan climaxes at like where there's like a rain delay and like, you know, and De Niro like just stabbing stabbing baseball players. Yeah, that's a wild movie. My goodness. As we said, Bruce Willis is a private eye, was a Secret Service agent who lost his job, who has some respect to him because he saved the president from a gunman once, but then like beat up a senator who was abusing a woman. We get like flashbacks to that like intermittently throughout the movie. He finds out his wife is sleeping with his friend, played by Bruce McGill, who offers him a surveillance job where it's like just protecting an exotic dancer played by Halle Berry. That's how they refer to her in the movie. He initially refers to her as a stripper and then corrects himself and says exotic dancer. Yeah, and then McGill his car is blown up, like rigged to explode. And then shortly thereafter, Barry is gunned down by some men who are following her, and Wayans and Damon Wayans, her boyfriend, is like unable to stop it.
Was it a thing of that Bruce Willis was supposed to get blown up in that car so that his friend could be with his wife?
It's something like that was the thing where like it's like oh, your friend was like trying to double cross you and everything, and I'm like thinking, I don't know how that works. Like what? Like it's like was he gonna like? It's a little unclear to me at least. How like
assignment. Also, take my car. Like,
yeah, he gets into the car willingly. It's
He's just like, oh, I guess I'll get out of here. Gulp, and turns the key and blows up.
Yeah, and then like they're also like they're putting a lot of thought into the bad guys are putting a lot of thought into this scheme where they rig both of Halle Berry's cars to explode. Where it's like her car is like, you know, they kill her in the car, but then also put like C4 and Damon in the car that Damon Wayans is gonna drive.
The bad guys have so much C4, like so much.
Yeah, and it's all for sports betting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll get to it, but the briefcase, the car that has a circling briefcase holder that nobody notices besides Bruce Willis whenever that's going down. Right. It's like how do you get that installed? And we're just like, what are you, fucking wacky racers or some type shit? Like, we don't do that with cars.
Tip my ride.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone comes on and is like, give me that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Wayans and Willis, despite getting off on like the wrong foot where they're like, you know, like they're like practically fist fighting each other in like the strip club. Wayans is like, you know, very eager to like tag along, and like Willis is like kind of like trying to shake him off, but like sort of begrudging, as we said in the Google plot summary, begrudgingly letting him come along. It's like they find out that Barry, before she dies, she says to Damon Wayans that she's gonna get him like his old job back because like he'd been fired from the football team for gambling, which doesn't really seem like a problem that he's still suffering from. If anyone like talks about having a gambling problem, it's Bruce Willis, who says like he was like doing a job in Vegas and like lost $50. She had been like photographed with she had like knowledge and like photographs of like stuff with where it's like the owner of the LA team and like a senator who was like in charge of like bills regarding like gambling laws. They like were like all chummy and everything. She had evidence of that and was going to use that like to sort of leverage like a job for Damon Wayans, and then she was killed for it. I did like the bit where they have the evidence of like a conversation between the team owner and the senator, and I like the senator being like, hey, please don't use my name on this tape, and then Wayans is like, okay, let's fast forward to the good part, and then like the tape player on Willis's car just like destroys it. Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
That's very much how Enemy of the State is set up, like the first scene of Enemy of the State,
where it's just like a person like accidentally like discovers something, or like,
well, it's filming that, but it's also the guy who's gonna be testifying about spying on people and shit, and they have to, John Voight is trying to get him to be on their side, and when he's like no, they're just like, oh, we'll just kill him. Yeah. And then I would also say that sort of the tape player, and like this movie also having like characters where like they have to like sort of bluff their way out of situations. That's a very Shane Black thing, like in the scene in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang where Robert Downey Jr. is interrogating a guy and he's like playing Russian roulette and he just shoots the guy and it's like, well, there's like an 8% chance that it wouldn't have gone off. Yeah.
they get into like a lot of shootouts and like a lot of like near death experiences where like they get confronted by some bad guys who want like the envelope of photographs, and they like put them in the trunk of where like they've rigged it with C4 that was originally going to kill them. They have to dodge the car that like explodes and like rolls down the hill. That's a lot of cool stunts there. And then when they go back to Willis's house at one point to just sort of like, I think, decompress from like all the constant near-death experiences, they start to like, drink and bond. They meet Willis's teenage daughter, Danielle Harris, who hates Willis and is like talking with her like a puppet to sort of like, act as like sort of a buffer between them.
Sure.
And he's mad because she's mad because he won't let her go
Chekhov's
to a party.
Puppet.
Yeah. But like Damon Wayans like kind of is like does get through to the kid and everything. He's being like pretty nice to her and everything. And he and Harris have like fun chemistry. Where like she like later like tags along when like Wayans is trying to like follow the senator's bodyguards. He like when he lets her go along and everything, but then like he goes to like check out Willis and says like stay in the car, and then he's like stay, and then she like woofs like as a joke, and he like you can see Wayne's like kind of cracks up a bit. I'm like, oh, that's like nice that they seem to sort of get along. And then Wayans and Willis have a brief falling out where like Wayans is like doing drugs in Willis's house, and Willis is like really pissy about that, and Wayne's like points out, it's like, oh right, I'm talking to Dudley fucking Do-Right and everything. Just despite Willis's character being like a stinking drunk and everything, Willis is like acting like drugs. No.
When you first meet him, he's literally passed out in his car, and kids threw a dead squirrel on him, but he's apparently, hey, you can't do that in here.
Yeah, and then the movie is like pretty bracing about like the sort of the ugliness of like the sports of football as like as an industry and everything, where like it's like he's like so in pain that like he turns to drugs because like of the sport that he's playing, where like injury is like kind of like just sort of an occupational hazard. Yeah, the corruption of the sports gambling and everything, which it's funny. Suspense is Killing Us, they also did an episode on a movie Two for the Money, where it's like talking about like sports betting, and like they're saying like, and now it's just like the idea that anyone had any cause about this is just like, because it's now just like a mainstream thing and nobody cares.
Is there a, like, not famous, but isn't there a line from Two for the Money, like in the trailer that, oh God, I used to be able to, whenever I thought about Two of the Money, it was a line from the trailer, but now I can't think of it.
Yeah.
Two for the Money. Everybody has seen that.
I have never seen it, and they hated it on the show, so I was just like, good, I'll just listen to the segment. So yeah, Willis and Wayans have the falling out, which I think is like, that's how when they get separated, Willis is like tasered at his own home and like kidnapped in broad daylight, despite there probably presumably being neighbors who would be around to witness this, and like a barking dog drawing attention to this. The Milo, played by Taylor Negron, who's kind of like the lead henchman, he shoots a cop and like and says like, we're gonna now frame you for murder too. And then there's like another like asshole cop who like knows Willis from his past and is like constantly thinking that he's getting into trouble. He thinks that like Willis murdered Bruce McGill because he found out about his affair with his wife and everything. He just, which I feel like you don't need this character who's just like out to chew Bruce Willis out and everything. One, because Willis chews himself out enough. His like pep talk in the mirror is like saying, I mean, you're gonna lose. Smell, you fuck. But he's taken to the mansion where it's revealed that like the team owner is in on this, where he's gonna like, he wants to bribe the senator. Chelsea Ross will not like legalize sports gambling unless he's paid $6 million, and instead of giving him $6 million, they're gonna like switch a briefcase where they think that's money, but it's actually a bomb, where they'll just like kill this guy and they'll frame Willis for the murder. And then that goes sideways because when Willis escapes the kidnappers with the help of his kid putting a gun in the animal puppet, as one does. Mm-hmm. He intercepts like the senator's the senator's limo, where I guess one of his guards is like double crossing him, it seems, and like he And then I think like Milo passes decides like, oh, the bomb plan is out, so now I'm gonna just like snipe the snipe the senator from a heightened position. I do like how Milo, who's like a very well composed character, calling everyone by their full names, Joseph and James and everything. He gets more and more flustered the more he has to deal with Willis. He like when he calls him up on the phone with like the Kinect, he's like, "Hey, motherfucker!" They get to the stadium and they confront the Stallions owner, and they escape throwing things called shredders, which are like exploding shotgun shells into the fireplace, which explode and set like a bunch of henchmen on fire. Which is awesome. It looks incredible. And like people are like getting like shotgunned into like TVs, so like there's like sparks flying and they're exploding from that. Just like some stunning screen violence, if you like that kind of thing. And then they get to and then like Wayans makes his way to the field so he can get the senator's attention. He throws a football at the senator and it like breaks his nose, so he like gets out of the way, and like Milo like just like shoots the football and misses the senator by like just a hair. And then he and Willis have like a big nasty fight on the catwalk. Willis says like, "I told you if you ever touched me, I'd kill you," which he says to Kim Coates, the henchman who like won't stop slapping him
before he fucking rocks his face with his nose bone. Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. The cops shoot Milo to pieces and he falls off the catwalk. And I love how like the movie just like is like building to like it's like it keeps cutting to like the rotor blades on the helicopter between his body falling in slow motion and the blades. Does it like a few times as if like, oh, get ready for what's about to happen, and then like he gets sliced by the blades, and I like that it's realistic that the crowd's like, and then Willis, in a callback to him saying, "When this case is done, I'll dance a jig," he dances on the Jumbotron to no music. There's a score playing on the soundtrack, but he's just dancing. And all the cops are like, "Looks like he's dancing." The team owner has gotten away. He breaks into the car that they said the briefcase was gonna be in, but he steals the wrong briefcase, which has the bomb, and you see him opening it in his mansion with his 2 guard dogs, and then he opens it and his house just blows up, and everybody laughs about it. And then the movie ends where Willis has gotten back together with his wife, and he's being like the stern, loving father to his kid, like saying, "Hey, stop swearing." And then his daughter's like, "Yes, sir." So order's restored. And then
Thank God.
Yeah, and then he and Wayans are gonna like team up and be like private detective partners, and like they're talking about how they should have like cool catchphrases to accompany their fights with guys. Yeah, and then the movie's over, and then they play Friday Night's a Great Night for Football again.
Once again.
Yeah.
I did forget at the strip club the DJ is Eddie Griffin, and that's his first movie role.
Yes, I thought it looked like him. He was like, what, 23 probably when he shot this?
Dude.
Yeah.
Because the same year he plays like a role in the Andrew Dice Clay stand-up / movie Dice Rules, but I mean, wow. Yeah.
I also saw the soundtrack list. They play "Get Off" by Prince in the club at one point. Were you happy about that?
Yeah, and that's the extended version. And then they have the conversation about Prince where Bruce was like, "I don't like him, but my daughter does," or whatever. Yeah.
But then like doesn't Wayne's like do like an impression of Prince that makes Willis laugh and everything, and it's like, oh, they're becoming friends again.
Yes.
What do you think of the chemistry between Wayans and Willis in this? I think they're fine together. I don't necessarily believe that they don't like each other. I don't know that I necessarily buy it when they start actually teaming up and liking each other. Like,
yeah, it's definitely a lot more fun when they're not happy together. And then it doesn't really hit as hard whenever his daughter tells Damon Wayans that like, no, he was your biggest fan until he never watched football again after you got kicked out. It's like, I don't buy that.
Yeah, I don't really buy that Willis liked anybody before this movie started.
Yeah, I don't think the only vices he has is drinking and smoking, not football. He doesn't like entertainment. He's not a fan.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing too about one, this movie makes cigarettes. It does look cool. But I also I like. And this is the thing that I feel like some action movies like lose later on. Is like I like how fucked up the characters get by the violence that they are like enduring. Like especially like in the end of the movie, like Willis like has like, you know, he's like spitting blood whenever he gets like punched in the face, and like he's like has like sort of like a little scar that's like above his lip and everything, so like it kind of like makes it look like he's smirking because of the scar and everything. Like and I like that, and it's thinking of Shane Black's like later scripts that he's written and also directed. Like you get to a movie like Play Dirty where it's like, you know, multiple people are dying and everything, but it's like I don't believe that any of this is really happening. Like it all looks like not really tactile, and like it looks very CGI'd.
Very much like Olympus Has Fallen.
Yes.
Where you're just watching like hundreds of thousands of people die, and you're just like, no, they're fine. That's not really happening.
But I don't know. I mean, that's the plot. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts and everything, but like the movie doesn't weirdly get bogged down in it because it just kind of keeps like moving with like, you know, all the action and like, you know, the banter and everything. So like I feel like it goes down relatively easy, whereas I feel like a lesser movie would just like stop the movie cold for 10 minutes to explain the whole thing. Right. And even like during the expositional scenes, like all the interiors like look like really well lit. Like they're really striking to look at, and you know, it's good actors delivering the dialogue. So that's really all I have to say about the movie. Except one other thing. Just thinking about music, and I having watched Lethal Weapon, both this and Lethal Weapon are scored by Michael Kamen. And this movie, both movies have the tendency to, whenever a character says something that's kind of a funny line, there'll be like a little music sting. So like in Lethal Weapon, it'd be like, I'm too old for this shit. And it'd be like, like on the saxophone. And then this movie has, and I saw in the credits, it must be the instrument. It's the acoustic bass. So like a character was saying, it's like, boom, 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 boom. Like, it's just funny. Like it's almost like sitcom-y, like the way it's like saying, he just said something funny. Did you not get that? Yeah.
I did see that there was a fact that the guy who did the score said he hated the movie and he only did it because he's a fan of Bruce Willis, because he was like friends with him.
Oh yeah, well he did the Die Hard scores as well. Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. He was just like, you mean I have to make a sting after somebody says something quippy? I'm gonna be in the booth all fucking day. Yeah, I don't have much else to say, TBH. I was just gonna say favorite Tony Scott, if he got one.
Deja Vu, number one on the bullet. But yeah, I also love Spy Game and Crimson Tide and True Romance, which True Romance is a movie I thought of too, where like it's funny how like I'm talking about like some of the noxious elements of the Shane Black script, not as if like True Romance does not also have its like, you know, pungent dialogue and everything, but I don't know, it had to like a greater hit ratio of lines that hit that work for me. But there is also some nasty stuff in that movie too. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, Man on Fire is just the best shit. Who wrote Man on Fire?
Isn't it Brian Helgeland?
That's true. The Order's own Brian Helgeland, yeah.
But it's also like, I think we found this out. It's like it was like a novel originally, and like they made a movie of it in the 80s with Scott Glenn and Joe Pesci. I think when we were like looking at like TriStar's like output or something like that, or maybe it was like, was it Dino De Laurentiis that did it?
Oh, jeez.
It is TriStar. Yeah. Scott Glenn, Joe Pesci, Jonathan Pryce, Brooke Adams, Danny Aiello. Maybe this is good.
Brooke Adams, my wife? What? Okay. What's it called?
It's called Man on Fire. And
it still is. Okay.
Yeah, it says it's based on the 1980 novel by A.J. Quinnell.
Huh. We'll be covering when we do TriStar. It will take us 9 years to cover all those movies. I think there's like 55 or some shit before Sony bought them.
Yeah. One step at a time. But yeah, no, Tony Scott, for people listening, a very fun filmography to go through. Like even like the ones that I'm like cooler on, like Top Gun and Days of Thunder. Like there's like still lots of good like surface pleasures to glean from them.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description